What is up, Breaking Bad fans? Kino here, and we are back with another Breaking Bad log. Today we're looking at the third episode of Season 2, Bit by a Dead Bee. Now, the episode opens with Walt and Jesse continuing their walk through the desert, the same as where we saw them last episode. During the walk, they've discussed a cover story to explain where they've been this whole time. Walt makes his way down to a supermarket where he gets completely naked. He's then picked up and taken to a hospital where he's reunited with Skyler and Jr. The cover story is that Walt was in a fugue state and doesn't remember anything about where he's been at. Meanwhile, Jesse goes back home, but the cops are searching for him since his car was at the scene of Tuco's shootout. After sneaking in, he loads the lab equipment into the RV and has Badger's cousin Clovis tow it away for hiding. He then instructs Badger to call in an anonymous tip of his location, which is all part of the plan. Meanwhile, the doctors continue to examine Walter for any reason why he might have went into the fugue state. When they can't find a medical reason, they send him in for psychiatric evaluation. Walt, eager to get out of the hospital, admits to the psychiatrist that there was no fugue state. He gives another lie that he just wanted to get away from his overbearing family for a while. However, there is some truth in this lie that he's giving, as the reasons why he says that he left are the reasons why he ended up cooking meth, namely that his life has no accomplishments, he's realizing that he's going to die, and all of that contributed to Walter's decision to become Heisenberg. Meanwhile, after Badger's tip, the DEA picks up Jesse at the Crystal Palace. His story is that he was partying with Wendy the whole weekend and didn't know that his car was stolen. Hank, of course, doesn't believe him, as the car had thousands of dollars of drug money inside of it. He then tries to break Wendy into admitting the truth, and she comes close. However, she ends up recognizing Hank from when he brought Walter Jr. with him to mock her in order to scare Walter Jr. straight. She immediately sticks to her story, leaving them without any probable cause. And there's a great bit of irony here, as it's Hank's asshole behavior that ends up costing him in this moment. Not giving up though, Hank then brings in Hector Salamanca. He asks Hector if Jesse was at his house. Though Hector of course recognizes Jesse and hates him for his role in Tuco's death, he's still an old school narco and refuses to rat to the DEA. With nothing tying Jesse to the scene, they're forced to let him go. Jesse, however, with no car and no money now that the DEA has seized the drug money, calls his dad for help, but his dad refuses. He then calls Walter, who tells him to get the RV back into shape so that they can continue to cook. He says that nothing has changed for him, meaning that he still needs money to pay for his family and all of his treatment. And speaking of money, Walt realizes that his is still out in the open at the house. He sneaks out of the hospital and goes back home to hide his money and his gun. While he's there, he observes his wife and son alone, and sees the pain that his lies have caused them. This is a trend which will only grow worse over the course of the series. Back at the DEA, Hank reviews the footage of the break-in at the chemical warehouse. At Tuco's house, they recovered the ultra-pure blue meth that was cooked with the P2P method. Hank realizes that all of these events are connected, but can't see quite how yet. However, he's distracted by a surprise party thrown by his coworkers. The DEA celebrate Hank's takedown of Tuco by giving him Tuco's grill, which they've encased in plastic as a kind of grisly trophy. Later, at the White House, Walt returns home from the hospital. He can feel the tension between him and Skyler, and I'll admit he actually pulls a smooth move for once by standing out naked to cut the tension. However, as they're going to bed, Skyler asks him about the phone call and if he has a second cell phone. Walt denies it, and though Skyler doesn't push it, you can see her suspicion and growing distance from Walt. The title of the episode comes from the movie To Have and Have Not, and refers to the harm that comes from something you thought was already over. This refers to many things in the show, from Walt's lies which come back to bite him, to the psychological damage caused by Tuco's shooting, which we'll see in Hank this season. As I mentioned in my Breaking Bad webisodes video, you can see the pink teddy bear from the flash forward in the grocery store when Walt is naked. I'll link that video in the description in case you haven't seen it. Lastly, while I don't like to reference things in future episodes too much, the painting that Walt sees in the hospital will be featured again in Season 5. We'll cover it more once we get there, but suffice it to say the painting deals with themes of leaving one's family and isolation. And that is pretty much the episode. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next Breaking Bad log coming soon. I'm in a fugue. Russell, Sean, Heart of Markness, Logan, Clean, John Reyna, Jesse Sterling, Andrew Stewart, Obs Racing Media, Daz J. Kit, Conan Higgins, Sam Cedarlin, Don Lucania, Celery Man, and Jenna Marie Johnson.